I have been horrible about vlogging the last few days. It is already March 21st, Thursday. So I need to do quite a bit of reading updates. So we're opening this vlog immediately talking about books. So I ended up switching to the audiobook for Powerless by Lauren Roberts. I am so far into this. I think I'm at 90%, 89%, so I will finish this tomorrow. So what is this book about? So in this book, we are in this world where people are kind of separated by whether or not they have magic. And if they have magic, it can range from being like mundane. So you have very like low magic, like you could project your voice or something, like it's very minuscule, versus to like an elite who can have like super strength, or one of our main characters who's an elite, he can actually pretty much absorb other people's powers and utilize other people's powers if they're close to him. So we have that kind of separation of people, and then people without magic are considered ordinaries. But one day the king was like, ordinary people are gross and they are diseased and have the plague, so he orders all ordinary people to be put to death and executed. Our main character, Peyton, she is secretly without powers. She is an ordinary person and kind of pretends to be psychic in order to not be killed. And she is living on the streets in the slums after her parents died. Her dad was killed, and I think her mom died in childbirth. So she is an orphan living on the streets trying to survive. And then also in this world, there are these trials, which I don't know if they mentioned it in the book or not, but I have no idea. I might have totally missed it. Maybe they just didn't even mention it, but I don't really understand how they pick people to be in the trials, but pretty much they eventually pick a bunch of elites and a few people from like the slums to go into these trials and fight till death, pretty much, until there's a person that is deemed the winner, and it's just for honor and glory. It's not like Soul Survivor like Hunger Games, but this book has a lot of similarities to Hunger Games, which I'll talk about in a second. So that's like the premise of this book, and it is a fantasy romance. So we end up having a romance blossom between our main character who's living on the streets. She eventually gets pulled into the trials, and she ends up having a romance with one of the elites in the trials. It's the prince, which you find out very early on who the love interest is. So I have had quite a journey with this book. I initially started reading it physically, which if you watch any of my other vlogs from Realmathon, I have mentioned this book, I think in every vlog so far, because I started reading it physically. I got 25 pages in, and this book was just not holding my attention when I was physically reading it, and it just wasn't doing it for me, so I ended up switching to the audiobook. Now I will say I feel like the audiobook made me like this a little bit more, especially Kai's POV. So we do have dual POV, so we get the perspective of our female main character and our male main character, and I really liked the narrator for Kai. I think he did a very good job, and he made me really like Kai. The female narrator does like a totally fine job, but for some reason her voice makes me feel like I am reading or listening to a YA. Her voice sounds young, which kind of takes me out of it a little bit. When I read YA, I kind of like to forget that it's YA and insert myself in the books instead of feeling like I'm reading about teenagers, because then I just kind of get the ick, I guess, and it feels like really cheesy at that point. So I try my hardest to forget that I'm reading YA for that purpose, but I do like the audiobook overall, and I do feel like switching to the audiobook was a great idea. I don't think this book would have held my attention as much physically, or at least it would have just taken me much longer to get into it. Now it still took me a little bit to get into it. The point that I started being a little bit more invested was when the trials started coming up, and all of the people kind of had to coalesce at the castle in order to participate in these trials. So that's when the book started being a little bit more interesting to me. And then the romance kind of started. There is kind of like a, I don't want to say like a three-way romance, but there are two guys that are interested in the same female character, but it's pretty obvious who like the actual male interest is. The other one is kind of just a pawn. So it's not like really done in a way that causes any like tension in any way. You're not like, ooh, who's she gonna pick? Like, it's pretty obvious who she is actually attracted to. I actually did really start to like the banter between the characters and the flirtiness, and he's very like the male main character, the male love interest is very like cocky and dark, and I like that. I like a dark character and a dark love interest, and he would like tease her and stuff, and I like that kind of banter. But the last, I want to say the last like 15% that I've listened to, it's just like too much now. It's very like borderline sappy, and it's a lot of them talking about their feelings for each other, specifically Kai, the guy, and it's just to the point now where it's just like too much, and I'm kind of starting to get the ick. It's like I liked it before, but you keep talking about it, and he kind of says every cliche you can think of. I don't know, her ocean blue eyes, or the beast never gets the beauty, and I just want to call you mine. Like any cliche you can think of, I think this guy has said. So I'm at the point now where I'm a little bit annoyed now with the romance, and it's just a little bit too romance heavy. Like, I want to get back to the trials. I wish the trials lasted a little bit longer than they did, but like between each trial we have this like romance, I guess, and like nothing major has like happened physically between them, and it's just being in their character heads, and specifically Kai, just all he's ever thinking about is this chick. And I'm like, all right, pump the brakes a little bit. Like, he has other character attributes that I wish we leaned a little bit more into, because yeah, the romance part is getting a little too sappy, is getting a little bit overkill, but I am enjoying it still. I have a feeling that this will probably end on like a cliffhanger, or like where we think somebody dies, and then the next book we're gonna figure out what actually happened or something. I feel like it's gonna end on a very intense what happened moment, because I did look into this. I think that this is supposed to be a trilogy. The second one is called Reckless, and I believe that's coming out July 2nd. It's either July 1st or July 2nd. It's the first week in July. So back to my comment about Hunger Games. This book was giving me very reminiscent feelings as like Hunger Games, but not in the sense of like how much I was enjoying reading it, but just some of the stuff aligns very much with Hunger Games. The only difference with this book is it has magic in it, and the romance is much heavier in this book. But it was kind of funny because they have these trials which are different than the Hunger Games, but they go through these trials and kids are killing kids, and the female main character is really good with an arrow, and there's like some other stuff. There's like a rebellion behind the scenes, and at some point they had to get dressed up to do their interviews before the trials. So there were quite a few things that reminded me of Hunger Games. So I think if you liked Hunger Games but would have loved more romance and maybe some magic, I think you might really like this story. I'm not saying it's like too close, like that anybody copied anybody, but it's just very reminiscent of that for me. And I know that I've recently compared another book to Hunger Games. I think it was The Deadly Education, which I take back, by the way. Like, the only reason I even thought that was because kids were dying, but I take that back. That book's not similar to Hunger Games, other than like you have to survive something, but it's very different. Anyways, that is how Powerless is going. It started pretty weak, it got a bit stronger, and now it's getting a little bit weak again. So I don't know how I'm feeling. I will definitely finish this tomorrow. As far as like star rating, I don't know where I'm gonna end up, because I feel like it started as a 3, and then when I got into it, it was like, okay, maybe this is like a 4. And now I kind of feel like, okay, maybe it's like a 3.5 now, because like it's gone down in the last 10-15%, honestly. I have mixed feelings with this one, but that will be done tomorrow. I am also currently in the middle of The Dawn and Its Light by Piper CJ. I am about halfway through on page 300. I'm actually a little bit more than halfway through because this is 557 pages. I'm really enjoying this. So this is the fourth and final book in the Night and Its Moon series by Piper CJ. I've talked about this series a lot on my channel, so I'm sorry if you've heard me talk about it. But for those who haven't heard me talk about it, in this series, we follow our two main characters, Knox and Amaris. They meet as young children / babies in an orphanage that is pretty much like a child mill. They sell the kids off to like the highest bidder, so it's a very shady orphanage. And Amaris is described as being extremely unique. Nobody's ever seen a person look like her. She has like violet eyes, very pale skin, white hair, you name it. That typical fantasy kind of thing. And Knox is pretty much the opposite. She's very tan, dark hair, like brown, dark eyes, the opposite. So they end up growing up in this orphanage together, and because of this, they become very, very close. But then one day, when they're older, Amaris ends up getting sold to a madam in a brothel. But when the madam comes to collect Amaris, Amaris ends up running away, and in order to get her money's worth, the madam ends up taking Knox and one or two other girls with her to the brothel. So then these girls end up getting separated. Amaris is out running in the forest and Knox gets sent to this brothel. And then the rest of the series becomes about these two girls that grow up into women and they try to find their way back to each other. And it's a fantasy romance. It has bisexual representation in it and it's very journey driven. There's so many fun, amazing, fantastical elements that I love in it. And it is like a slow burn, which I like also. Like, I'm a slow burn girly through and through. And the characters in this series are so well done. The character arcs are amazing. And I've just been super, super attached and connected to this world and this series. Now, I will say the first book is a little bit rough around the edges. It needed a better editor, but by the end, I was just so entertained by the story. By the series in general is so action-packed. I feel like the pacing overall has just been so well done for the whole series. And I have vlogs where I talk about every single book that from this series thus far. So if you want to check those out, those are all over my channel. The first one is a very early on vlog, but it is there if you want to watch it. I will say with this one, the beginning took a little bit to get going, but it does open up kind of with our characters immediately starting a journey to go to another part of the world that we haven't yet explored. And I'm at the point where they are in said new territory. So despite it being like the last book, new stuff is kind of happening and cropping up, which I really enjoy because I feel like I have issues a lot of the times with final books in series. I just finished Kingdom of Ash, so I'm thinking of that one in particular, where not much new stuff happens. It's just a lot of stuff being tied up. But this book has already like had some new stuff happen and there's still plenty of time for it to play out and to feel concluded without it feeling rushed. So it's still like as exciting to read as a book in the middle of a series, if that makes any sense, which I really like. So I'm enjoying this. I can't tell yet if it's as strong as the other ones. I have noticed I'm not annotating as much as I had with the other ones. I feel like there hasn't been as many moments of very pretty lyrical writing as the other books had. The other ones just had a lot of where like action would play out, and then just really great passages of these characters' thoughts and emotions and just like super pretty and well written things throughout the book. And I do feel like this book hasn't had as many of those. So there is that, but that's not to say I'm not enjoying this. I just like don't know if it's going to be as strong as the other ones, but I am enjoying it a lot so far, and I'm curious to see where the rest of the story goes. So that's the update for The Dawn in Its Light. I am going to try to read as much as I can tonight, because tomorrow actually starts Peace Talks weekend, and I think it starts at 7 p.m. I'm gonna have to double check. So I have pretty much up until that time to read as much as I can of this before I kind of like set it aside for the weekend and pick up a bunch of novellas and shorter books like manga and stuff, because during this weekend, every book that we start and finish for the readathon gets an extra 10 bonus points. So I'm gonna read as much as I can until tomorrow. I don't know when I'm gonna start tomorrow. I have like a stack of books that I plan to get to. I don't know what I'm gonna go for first, but I will talk to you guys about that tomorrow and show you the books that I'm thinking about grabbing and kind of like the stack that I'm working with. So yeah, okay. I think that that's it for now. I look like an absolute mess right now, but I am exhausted and I cannot be bothered to get ready in any way, shape, or form. So it is, let's see, 5:08 Friday night. So we are slightly less than 2 hours away from the start of Peace Talks. So I did end up finishing Powerless this morning, and I did end up really enjoying the way that it ended. And I think that the turn of events will make for a very interesting sequel. So I am definitely interested in checking out the sequel when it comes out. But I think overall, Powerless, I think I'm gonna give it 3.5 stars. It was just quite a bit of a roller coaster, maybe 3 stars. It's either 3 or 3.5. I'm still kind of jumping between the two. Because like I said, started rough, but then it did win me over a little bit, and then it started losing me again, but then I did like the way it ended. So it was a very hot and cold experience with the book. I do feel like it's a little bit forgettable as well. I just don't know that as much stood out for me about it, other than a lot of the similarities it had with Hunger Games. I just don't think it's going to impact me for very long, but I did enjoy it most of the time while I was reading it or listening to it. So yeah, it's either like a 3 or 3.5, but I will definitely at least check out the sequel and see how that goes. And then for The Dawn in Its Light, I am on page 418 or 19. I'm in the middle of a chapter. I literally have like 130 pages left or so, so it kind of kills me that I'm just kind of so close to finishing it, yet like not that close. So part of me wants to like barrel through the rest of it, but we'll see. I might try to read a little bit more before 7 o'clock hits, but I'm kind of messing around in my library right now, and as you can see, the mess of books behind me, I was trying to sort the books out, and I'm getting a little overwhelmed, so I might need a break anyway. So I might take a break and I might read this up until 7 o'clock and see how far I get. But once 7 o'clock hits, I'm probably gonna set this aside for the rest of the weekend and get back to it Monday. So that being said, I wanted to check in with some of the books that I am going to potentially read for the rest of this weekend. So I do have 4 physical books. I have Goddess of Filth by V. Castro. I think this is going to be the first one I read. I have to check back. I did make a poll. And I think that this one was winning the last I looked at it, so I have to see if it's still winning. So all I know about this one is it's like a possession story, but I think it's very like female focused. And I'm really excited to read this one. I've had it for quite some time. For whatever reason, when I have novellas, it takes me so long to read them because in my head, I'm just like, it's gonna take me no time to read them. So then I just consistently put them off until I never read them. So all of these books I've actually had for quite some time, but Goddess of Filth I think will be my first read. I will check back later. Then I have Night of the Mannequins by Stephen Graham Jones. I really, really want to read this one so much. I really don't know what it's about, but the fact that mannequins is in the title has me so intrigued. I love horror with like mannequin elements. They're so creepy, and I think that it can be done so well. I have no idea what to expect with this story. I've heard very mixed things, but I'm really excited to check this one out. So this is definitely high priority for this weekend. And then I kind of forgot I had these two, but I pulled them since they are novellas. I have 1922 by Stephen King. I did actually watch the movie adaptation to this, and I did enjoy it. It was very like atmospheric. So I don't know how this will compare. I mean, it's been a long time. I think it had to do with a farmer. Pretty much it's about this farmer and his son and wife, and the wife dies, at least in the movie. The wife dies, and there's like atmospheric creepy stuff around that. So we'll see how this compares. And then I do have an Eric LaRocca, which I have not read from them yet, which I know is crazy because everybody and their mother was reading their works, especially last year. But I have We Can Never Leave This Place. I don't know what this is about. This is one that I've heard a lot of mixed things about too. Like a lot of people say this is like their least favorite, but I mean, I don't know. I have nothing to compare it to. So again, I don't know what this is about, but excited to find out. And then I was able to snag a few short audiobooks from my Libby app because I wanted to get a few shorter audiobooks available to me as well. So I do have Comfort Me with Apples by Catherine M. Valente. This is one that I hear a lot of mixed things about too, and I don't know what it's about. I feel like people describe it as being atmospheric, but I don't really know. It is only 2 hours, so I will very, very highly likely listen to this over the weekend. And then I also got Ring Shout by, I'm not quite sure how to say this author's name, but it's up there. I will put it up there. I know that this has something to do with the KKK, I believe. And I've heard it has good body horror, which has me super intrigued. I like that both of those elements are in there. I'm very interested. And the audiobook is 6 hours, so it's longer than Comfort Me with Apples, but it's still definitely a shorter audiobook. So I have those two on audiobook. And yeah, I'll see how much I can get through, but I will check in with you guys once I actually start one of these and can give you a better summary of whichever one I decide to read first. So, reading update. I have been horrible at reading, and I haven't done very much. So I did start Goddess of Filth by V. Castro, and I am very, very intrigued by it, but I'm only up to page 23. I ended up falling asleep very early last night, and I haven't picked it back up today because I ended up reading a couple more chapters of The Dawn in Its Light by Piper C.J. Not enough to give you guys another update or anything, just a few other chapters. But I did listen to a few audiobooks, so let's talk about those. So I ended up starting and completing Comfort Me with Apples by Catherine M. Valente. The audiobook's only 2 hours. It's a very short novella, I think in print it's like 100 pages or so. I ended up starting and finishing this while I was doing some chores around the house, and I really liked it. This is one that has very mixed reviews. I feel like people either really like it or really don't like it at all, and I ended up really enjoying it and where the story went. The only thing I would maybe say about it is that it takes place in this like gated community, and we follow this wife, and the vibes are off, and that is literally all I would tell you guys about the story. And it leans into horror, so it is like I would consider in the horror genre. I don't know how it's technically shelved, but I would call this horror, kind of like literary horror in a lot of ways. So it's a very, at times, ambiguous story where it's not just very clear cut, but I enjoy that generally. But I also specifically enjoy that with shorter stories. I feel like there's just a lot of impact with a shorter story not painting the whole picture and kind of being ominous and ambiguous in some ways. I enjoy it. So I ended up really liking that one. I don't know what I'm going to rate it yet. I think I'm going to wait a little bit. Because part of me wants to give it 5 stars, but another part of me wants to give it 4.5. I feel like I've had a really good reading month, but I have yet to give out a 5-star. And I don't know if I'm just being stingy, but I did start and finish that. And then I ended up starting the audiobook for Ring Shout by, I think it's Pete DeHalle Clark. The narrator said it in the beginning, and I wanted to write it down phonetically, and I didn't. I got 12% in, but I had to stop. I don't know if maybe because I was doing stuff while I was listening to it, I feel like I haven't been, you know, paying much attention to, but it was getting what I felt like was a lot more magical realism in a way than I thought it would and expected it to. I thought it was just kind of like a body horror, heavy horror. But yeah, it had some like magical realism elements, I think. But again, I don't know that I was paying enough attention to it. But I wasn't vibing with it. I might try again. I might kind of rewind some chapters and see if I missed something. But I did end up then starting the audiobook for The Roanoke Girls by Amy Engel. This is actually a YA horror, and it is 11 hours, so it's not a short audiobook, but those were the only two. The other 2 books were the only like novellas I had. It was 11 hours, but I did get 35% of the way in. And I'm not really enjoying this one either. It just deals with content that I'm not like triggered by, but it's just like I don't enjoy reading it. And it's not that it's like graphic or anything. It's more like a family drama. It feels like family drama with some disturbing stuff in there. But it's like I don't know. There's a mystery where where a girl goes missing. I was gonna say where one of the Roanoke girls go missing, but I don't even know, honestly. Again, I don't feel like I'm paying that much attention. Not that this one I feel like needs that much attention, although there have been quite a few character names, and I'm not totally sure who's who, but I think I get the general idea of this story. And it's just like not something that makes me excited to read. It's just, yeah, family drama with disturbing trigger warning stuff going on. It seems like with like a missing girl, but yeah, it's just whatever. So I think I will at least finish 50% of it so I can like DNF it but still get the points. I believe that that's the rule with that one. So I'll probably listen to it at least up to 50%. But yeah, I'm not really enjoying it. So there's that. Yeah, so I've started quite a few books. I did get through one, but I've started quite a few and have made minimal progress, it feels like. So yeah, and it's already 10:30 at night. So I'm going to eat and probably get ready for bed. I have been horrible this weekend. I'm sorry. I thought I would read a lot more, but I ended up getting very, very caught up in setting up bookshelves. Still worth it. I'm still not done with the room. I'm looking at a lot of mess around me right now. So I'm not done with my library room still. Unfortunately, I was hoping to get it done tonight, but it's okay. It should be pretty quick to finish. I just have to like vacuum, rearrange, throw stuff out. So yeah, I'm probably not gonna read any more tonight. If I do, it's not gonna be enough for like a reading update anyway. So tomorrow I'm hopefully gonna get through some stuff. I really want to get through Goddess of Filth. I am enjoying what I've read so far. I like the vibes of it. And it's a possession novella, if I didn't mention that. And I would really like to get through at least one more of these, like Night of the Mannequins. That would be great. So tomorrow I'm really going to sincerely try to hunker down and finish these 2. So maybe I can get 2 more books in there. I'm gonna try again tomorrow, and hopefully I read and do better tomorrow. I am absolutely failing at this 48-hour readathon. I feel like I've read less this weekend during this 48-hour readathon than I do on a normal weekend. I don't know why. Having a time limit makes me feel so much pressure. And I just don't perform. So anyways, I have some reading updates. So I did at least make it to the 50% mark of the Roanoke Girls, and I'm DNFing that. No surprise there. I definitely was leaning into DNFing it previously. And I'm currently on page 81 of Goddess of Filth by V. Castro. Probably, I think it's like 60% of the way in. So in the story, we follow a group of girls, and right in the beginning, they are kind of doing a seance just for like shits and giggles. But while they're doing that, one of the girls, Fernanda, ends up acting very strange, and she is potentially possessed. And the rest of the story is kind of Fernanda's friend trying to figure out how to help Fernanda in the situation. And it kind of deals with themes that go along with teenagehood, growing up as a girl, and the pressures and like social stigmas that go with that. And I am enjoying it. I do like the writing, and these themes kind of always work for me. So yeah, it's not blowing me away. I kind of thought that this was going to be like a 5-star, and it doesn't really feel that way right now. It's still a high star. Like I am like enjoying it a lot, but I don't know. For some reason, I was convinced that this was going to be a 5-star, and it's not necessarily giving me those vibes now, but there's still like 40% more to go, so it could change. But it is 6:45 p.m. on Sunday, so I don't think I'm going to finish this within the 48 hours. So what did I finish in the 48 hours? I really technically only started and finished one book, and that was Comfort Me with Apples. But I did make it to the 50% mark of the Roanoke Girls, so that counts at least. But kind of did not do good at all, and my bad. I got really caught up with organizing my shelves yesterday. That ended up taking pretty much my whole day. I reorganized my room, did so much spring cleaning. I have like so many books that I'm about to unhaul, so much furniture that I need to get rid of. So I ended up really getting caught up in other stuff. And then today is actually my dad's birthday, so this morning I was spending time with him for a while, so I really just did not make the time to sit down and read this weekend, so that's on me. But I should finish Goddess of Filth tonight. I don't think I'm going to finish it by like the end of the 48 hours. But we have 2 books to log for that at least. And then once I finish Goddess of Filth, I have to get back to The Dawn in Its Light. And I have, oh my God, did I forget to put my bookmark back in here? Oh no. I don't know what page I'm on. My bookmark's not in here. What bookmark was I using? Oh, I was using my tabs as my bookmark. Oh dear. Okay. Oh, okay, I found it. I'm on page 445. So let me mark that so I don't forget. So yeah, I have actually a little bit more than 100 pages left. I should finish The Dawn in Its Light tomorrow or the next day, but by the end of this vlog, for sure, the vlog will end with me finishing this. So anyways, I was distracted by doing my bookshelves because I totally reorganized my room and I got new bookshelves, and there's a little sneak peek behind me so you can see some of it, but I will be having a video coming soon-ish for that. So I did film me reorganizing my bookshelves, so that'll be a video coming out. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss it. I will get back to you guys when I finish both of these books with my final thoughts and my ratings. Final reading updates. So I finished Goddess of Filth by V. Castro, and Honestly, I'm a little bit sad. I thought that this was going to be a 5-star. And while I did really like the themes and the idea of this story and some of the elements, it just really left me wanting more. I wanted more from the story. This is like the type of story that I would have wanted as a full novel unless it got really bizarre. I think that that's what I'm learning about myself is if I'm reading a novella, it needs to be extremely unique and really push boundaries and limits and just like really fully go there. If it's going to be short, it needs to be so impactful. And while this was good and I liked it, I just wanted more from it. I wanted the characters to be more fleshed out. This is one that I actually would have liked as more of a slow burn, more of a slow descent into madness, more of a slow realization of the stuff going on, that kind of scenario. I feel like it was more disappointing because I thought it was going to be a 5-star. So it like felt more disappointing because of that, because I had such high expectations for it. We need a word that's like FOMO, but you're living in the fear because it's true. Like I have FOMO with this book because everybody else has given it like 4 or 5 stars and that's where I thought I would be. And I don't feel that way. It's like, I kind of want to give it a 3. I think I'm going to give it a 3. It's kind of like a 3.5 because I did really like so much of the idea of this book. I just wanted it executed different. So yeah, unfortunately, not a 5-star like I was fully convinced it was going to be. I'm giving it a 3-star. It is a high 3-star, but I am giving it a 3-star. And then I finished The Dawn in Its Light by Piper CJ. So overall, this was not my favorite one in the series. I'm giving it 4 stars. So I still really enjoyed it, but it was definitely the weakest for me in the series. I don't know if it was the pacing of it or the subject matter. So like I already said, the beginning of this book has a lot to do with journey driven and our characters going to a new territory, which I actually really like. I like journey driven stories. So that wasn't really a problem. But then it also became a story about, I guess, like exploring religion, and there was conflict surrounding that. So yeah, I don't know. I know that this is the final book in the Night and Its Moon series, but the way that this ended leads me to believe that there could be like a spin-off book that follows a different character that might be kind of like, I guess, like academic based, which I would love. If that happens, I will absolutely read it. I hope that that is something that's in the works. I'm gonna look into it, but yeah, the way this ended, it could be nothing, but it seemed like it could lead to like a spin-off book. Yeah, I still really enjoyed this one, and I do think that it tied up the story nicely. I did cry. There was a moment where I cried. This book did make me cry a little bit, so that's good. But yeah, 4 stars. Definitely probably my least favorite of the series, but still thoroughly enjoy it. Still recommend the series. First one's a little bit rough, but it gets so good. The whole series just evolves so well, and I really love the series overall nonetheless. So to finalize a couple of my ratings, I officially gave Powerless 3 stars, and then I officially gave Comfort Me with Apples 5 stars. I was gonna give it 4.5, but then I was reading some of the reviews, and some people had written out some of the quotes in the book, and since I wasn't reading it physically, I don't feel like I got to appreciate the writing as much. But even reading those quotes, I was like, you know what, it's a 5-star. The writing is stunning, beautiful. I'm gonna buy a physical copy. I'm gonna reread it physically and annotate it. I'm giving it 5 stars. Really enjoyed that. But I did not make it clear that Ring Shout is like a soft DNF for now. I did put it on hold at the library. I think that that is one that I'm gonna have to read physically, or restart the audiobook, but I think I might read it. It's a soft DNF. I just was not paying enough attention to it and had no idea really what was going on. And now I know that there's like dark fantasy-esque elements to it. So now I know, and I'm prepared to go into it with that element in there. So anyways, that's all the books that I've read in this vlog. For the next vlog, as a little preview, I did start listening to the audiobook for Big Swiss. I'll just put the picture up because you can't see that. And I am loving this book right now. I am 47% of the way in. I'm loving this book. I get so excited to drive so I can put the audiobook back on. I'm really loving it. It's extremely character driven. But I will talk about it more in my next vlog, but loving that. And then for my next physical read, which I'm going to start right now, is going to be finally In the Roses of Peoria by Anne Burke. I'm so excited to start this. I haven't heard anybody talk about this. I didn't even know it existed until I got my Twisted Retreat box. It sounds so good. It's like a queer fantasy romance with vampires and plant horror and fungal fae. So I love the sound of all of those elements. So hopefully they tie well together and it's not like, you know, too much in one book. Did I say dark academia? It also says it's dark academia. So I'm really excited to get to this. So if you made it to this point in the video, leave a mushroom emoji down below so that I know. And then also in the next vlog, I'm going to try to include more stuff outside of reading and talking about books, because I do realize that this vlog was pretty much me sitting and talking about books the whole time. If you've watched all the way through, I truly appreciate you taking some of your time and listening to me talk about books, because I was a gab mouth this vlog, I will say. So that being said, as I was saying before I got on my tangent, the next vlog I'm going to try to include some other stuff, some journaling. I'm debating on doing like a April TBR too within that video, because I have a lot of videos planned already for April. So I don't know where I would ever fit in an April TBR, but I kind of want to do one. So I think I'm going to sneak that into the next vlog. So the next vlog is really going to be the wrap up of realmathon, plus some like journaling, plus some April activities, TBR, tell you guys what the plans are for April. Maybe I'll go over my video plans. Let me know what you want to know. Let me know what you want me to talk about and I'll do it. Let me know what you want to see and I will try to provide it. But that is it for this video. As always, thank you so much for spending some of your time with me. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like, subscribe for future content, turn on the bell notification, all the fun YouTube things that help your girl out. And I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye!